There was a toothbrush in our bathroom I'd never seen before. Blue. Slim. Still wet. Not mine. Not my son's. And unless Kendra recently took up brushing with her non-dominant hand and swapped brands after 7 years, it wasn't hers either. That was the first whisper. The one that tells you something's off. The kind you try to shove down, like bad chili. 10 minutes later, I was standing in the kitchen, wiping grease off my hands with a rag, when I caught the second whisper. Only this one had a mouth, and it was my wife's. Kendra, I said casually, you know there's a toothbrush in our bathroom that... She cut me off without even glancing up from her phone. Maybe your imaginary friend finally moved in. That stung more than it should have. What's that supposed to mean? She took a slow sip of her seltzer, leaned against the counter, and smirked. I mean, you talk to yourself more than anyone talks to you. Figured the toothbrush was just part of the delusion. There were 3 people in the kitchen, me, her, and her friend Camila, who'd come over early to help with prep, which apparently meant pouring vodka into iced tea and reapplying mascara. Camila snorted. Kendra went in for the kill. Honestly, Travis, if I wanted a man who mumbles and grills like it's 1952, I just ate my dad. I set the tongs down slow. Tried not to show my hands shaking. You know what? I said, calm as a corner. Tell your dad to swing by next time. Maybe he can show me how to burn the marriage down faster. Camila blinked. Kendra tilted her head. Jesus, you're dramatic. I shrugged. Figured I'd lean into the role you cast me in. Makes the divorce scenes hit harder. She rolled her eyes. I smiled. But inside, I was already building the fire escape. Sunday was supposed to be a good day. It was my idea to do a cookout, something simple. Old school. Nothing fancy. Burgers, sausages, and my famous peach chipotle ribs. The kind of thing I'd wake up early to prep, even if no one noticed. I'd been marinating the ribs overnight in the fridge, using the same chipped glass bowl my mom handed down to me before she passed. It still smelled like smoked paprika and vinegar. My son, Jace, sat out on the back steps in his sharp boy pajamas, knees drawn up under his chin, watching cartoons on a battered iPad. He didn't say much that morning. I think he sensed the atmosphere had shifted. Even kids know when something's about to fall apart. They can smell it in the air like rain. I checked the charcoal. Half lit. Smoke curling up like a promise. Kendra stepped out in heels that didn't belong to this house. Thin black stilettos, too high for grass, too clean for our driveway. Her dress shimmered under the porch light. Black. Tight. Cut low. I hadn't seen her wear anything like that since our 10th anniversary. That was 3 years ago. You really wearing that? I asked. She gave me the look. You know the one. Like I was a bug she didn't feel like killing. It's called confidence. You should try it sometime. I heard the doorbell. Camila jumped up from the couch and opened the front door like it was her house. And there he was. I didn't know his name yet, but the moment I saw him, I knew his purpose. Tall. Sculpted. Button-down shirt so tight you could count the veins in his forearms. Fresh sneakers. Gold watch. Too perfect. He stepped in like he owned the place. Kendra beamed. Travis, this is Zayden. He does marketing consulting for lifestyle brands. He's helping me launch my coaching business. That was the first I'd heard of any coaching business. Zayden gave me a chin nod. Didn't offer a handshake. Just walked past me, straight to the living room, and dropped onto my couch like he'd paid for it. I looked at Kendra. She was still smiling. Jace peeked from behind the doorframe. Who's that, Mommy? She didn't answer. I grilled. They laughed. I watched them from the deck, flipping sausages with a clenched jaw. Zayden had his arms stretched behind her on the couch like they were already something. She leaned into him, giggled, slapped his chest. I poured myself a drink. Then another. At one point, Zayden stood up, walked toward me, and said, Yo, let's cut the act. You're done here. I blinked. Come again. He grinned, wide and smug. I'm the man now. Then he slapped me. Open hand. Right across my cheek. In front of my son. Kendra didn't move. She smiled. I don't remember diving at him, but I remember the crunch. The table shattering beneath us. The groan as I twisted his wrist backwards. The coppery smell of blood mixing with wood polish. The way Kendra screamed, not at him. At me. What are you doing? Are you out of your mind? Paramedics showed up fast. Too fast. Like she'd already called them. Zayden was wheeled out on a stretcher, groaning, face swollen, hand purple. The cops came next. But the neighbors had my back. Mr. Patel across the street told them he saw the slap. Heard Zayden say I was done. They let me go with a warning. Kendra didn't even look at me. She sat on the armrest of the couch, glass of wine in her hand, like nothing happened. I went to check on Jace. The door was locked. I could hear him crying inside. That was the first time I really felt the damage. And I knew. This was just the beginning. When a woman like Kendra leaves a bruise, it's never just skin deep. It's financial. It's legal. It's parental. It's surgical. The morning after she walked back into our house like nothing happened, I realized she hadn't just humiliated me. She'd already been digging her escape tunnel, paperwork, passwords, power plays. I was just the last one to figure it out. And now I had to catch up, fast. Jace was still asleep upstairs, curled up in the blanket my sister crocheted for his 4th birthday. The only sound in the house was the low hum of the fridge and the occasional clink of Kendra's spoon against her yogurt cup. She ate like a person with nothing on her conscience. I'd already been up for hours. I sat at the dining room table with a legal pad, a black ink pen, and my cracked old laptop. The wallet my dad gave me sat next to me, along with the photo of Jace I kept in the inner flap. It grounded me. First, I checked the joint bank account. It was still open, but the balance was low, way lower than it should have been. Rent was due in 9 days. I clicked through the transaction history. Hotel charges in Atlanta. Car rentals in her name. A new subscription to some online marketing course. One entry hit me square in the chest. A wire transfer of $4,000 labeled consulting retainer. Zayden. She'd paid him. Probably from the savings we built for Jace's college fund. I went colder than stone. I quietly opened a second tab. My own separate account I'd opened back in 2018. Just in case. Dad always said, have a plan she doesn't know about. Not for betrayal. For survival. I never thought I'd need it. I transferred $600 into it. Just enough to live on if I had to get out quick. Then I changed every password I could remember. Bank logins. Email. The security cam app for the house. Even Netflix. Not because I was petty, but because it reminded me I still had some control left. She wouldn't like that. Good. Later that day, she left to go get a facial. She took both phones and her laptop. Wore heels again. Left the door open when she walked out like it wasn't even her house anymore. That's when I made the call. My brother Mason picked up on the second ring. Still alive? He asked. Barely. I saw what happened on Facebook, he said. Camila posted a photo. Caption said, some men can't handle the truth. My hands clenched. I need a lawyer, I said. I'll text you one. Divorce specialist. She doesn't play nice. Neither does Kendra. Exactly. Her name was Layla Knox. Office downtown. When I walked in, she didn't offer coffee or fake small talk. She looked me over once, boots, wrinkled shirt, busted knuckles, and said, she's got a head start, doesn't she? About a year, I replied. Layla nodded. We'll catch up. She asked me for documents. I gave her the bank printouts, screenshots of the text messages, and a flash drive with video backups from the house security cams. I'd found the footage from the slap, from the smile. She watched it without flinching. Then she looked up and said, she's going to try to take custody. Are you ready for that? That was the first time I broke. Not sobbing, not yelling, just a crack. I nodded slowly. He's all I've got. That night, I started going through every drawer, every folder, every dusty box in the closet. I found more than I bargained for. Receipts for a storage unit in a nearby town, rented 6 months ago. Business cards from men I didn't know. A second bank card in her name, from a credit union I'd never heard of. A rental application. Approved. For a condo in Roswell. She hadn't just cheated. She was moving on. She had a future mapped out without me or Jace. And she was getting ready to vanish into it. When she came home later, I was sitting on the porch with a cold beer and the photo of our wedding in my lap. She looked down at it. Feeling nostalgic? She asked. Nope, I said. Just planning the obituary. She snorted. You're such a martyr. No, I said. I'm the guy who paid for the cake and didn't even get a slice. She rolled her eyes and went inside. I stayed out there until it got dark, the porch light flickering like it couldn't decide whose side it was on. The next morning, I took Jace to school. He sat quiet in the truck, legs swinging, backpack half-zipped. Halfway there, he asked, is Zayden coming back? I didn't want to lie, but I couldn't give him the truth yet either. Not to our house, I said. He's not part of our family. Jace didn't say anything, but he reached over and held my hand. I got a call later that day from Layla. She's trying to file for temporary custody, she said. Claims you're emotionally unstable, that you have a history of aggression. She's setting me up, I muttered. She's scared. And desperate. That's good. We'll use it. What do I do? Get documentation. Start journaling. And keep your cool. I could do that. I've been keeping my cool for too damn long. You ever look at the man who destroyed your life and realize he didn't actually destroy anything? He just took what was already being offered. That thought hit me around 4 a.m., 3 nights after Zayden slapped me in my own house and Kendra smirked like she was proud of it. It hit me when I finally stopped blaming him. Because Zayden? He didn't lie to me. He didn't take vows. He didn't make promises in front of God and family and friends. He just showed up and did what he wanted. And if it hadn't been him, it would have been someone else. Maybe one of her yoga instructors. Or Camila's boyfriend. Hell, maybe Camila herself. Because the truth is, once someone decides to betray you, the who is just a detail. The night I finally slept again, I dreamed I was in our kitchen. Same checkered tile, same crooked cabinet door. Only this time, Zayden was sitting across from me at the table, not as an enemy, but as a mirror. I didn't steal her, he said. I looked at him. What? She gave herself away. You just didn't want to see it. I woke up in a cold sweat. And I believed him. That morning, I didn't ask Kendra where she was going. I just watched her walk out the front door, red bottom heels clicking like gunshots against the concrete. She still moved like she owned everything. But the game had changed. Because now, I was watching, documenting, recording, filing. I'd met with Layla again. She gave me a binder with tabs and instructions. Keep a log of everything, she'd said. Words, times, names, anything said in front of the child. Who drops him off? Who picks him up? Document it all. Don't react. Just record. So that's what I did. I became a quiet man with a loud notebook. Jace was the only thing keeping me from burning the whole world down. He was the anchor. The reason I didn't scream when Kendra accused me of being emotionally manipulative just because I asked for time with my own son. The reason I didn't smash her second phone when I found it hidden behind the shampoo bottles in the bathroom cabinet. I'd opened it up. No password. Messages to Camila. To someone named T. To Zayden, though their thread had gone quiet. And that's when I saw it. A picture. Taken 3 weeks before the slap. Zayden. In our bedroom. Shirtless. Leaning against the dresser. Wearing my watch. The one Kendra couldn't find back in April. I stared at that image for maybe 20 minutes. Not because I was shocked. I'd moved past shocked. What I felt now was something different. Something calmer. Like when a forest fire stops roaring and all you hear is ash falling like snow. Later that week, Camila stopped by to talk. She brought a bottle of Chardonnay and a fake apology. I didn't know how far things went, she said, perching on the edge of the couch like a vulture in heels. Sure you didn't, I said, sipping water. I just thought you and Kendra needed a wake-up call. By inviting a man into our house and letting him claim my son's family? She smiled, tight-lipped. Honestly, if it hadn't been Zayden, it would have been someone else. You've been asleep for years, Travis. And just like that, the last nail slipped into place. This wasn't about passion. This was about power. They wanted to see if they could break me. They didn't. I didn't cry in front of her. Didn't raise my voice. Didn't ask her why. I just said, is this what makes you feel powerful, Camila? Helping Kendra turn a husband into a ghost. She laughed. You were already a ghost, babe. You just didn't know it. The next morning, I took Jace to his school's father-son breakfast. He clung to my hand the whole time. Wouldn't even look at the other kids' moms. Afterward, in the truck, he said, Mom said Zayden might come to my baseball game next week. I felt it. That old anger. Hot in the ribs. But I held it down. She told you that? He nodded. She said he's part of her new tribe. I stared straight ahead at the road, knuckles white on the wheel. She told me tribes don't have room for weak links. I pulled over. Looked my boy in the eyes. You are not a link, I said. And you're not weak. His lip quivered. Are you gonna leave? I shook my head. Never. I'm not the one who leaves. Layla filed our first motion that afternoon. Joint custody petition with supervised visitation for Kendra until the courts reviewed the evidence. We submitted logs, screenshots, timelines. In the video, the slap, the smirk, everything. The judge didn't rule yet, but he saw it, and that was enough. Kendra confronted me later that night. I was folding Jace's laundry when she walked into the room, arms crossed, tight gray dress like armor. You blindsided me, she hissed. I protected our son. You dragged our life into court. No, I said, looking her in the eye. You dragged my son into someone else's bed. I just told the truth. She scoffed. You're so pathetic. You're not even angry anymore. You're just sad. I nodded. Yeah, I grieved. Now I'm documenting. She stepped closer. You think anyone cares about a man whining in a courtroom? No, I said, folding a sock. But they care about a man showing restraint when everyone expects rage. That night, I opened the back of my closet and found my dad's old toolbox. Still smelled like sawdust and WD-40. Inside was a folded letter he wrote to me before he passed. The last line? Don't let anyone steal your silence. Speak it when it matters most. So I sat down, and I started writing my statement for the court. Not as a victim, but as a father. As a man who stayed. They thought Zayden would destroy me. They thought the slap was the climax. But the real story wasn't the slap. It was what came after. And I hadn't even started swinging yet. They say every man has a breaking point. But no one ever talks about what comes after. After the rage cools. After the silence gets too loud. After the nights start feeling longer than the days. For me, it wasn't the slap. It wasn't the bank accounts. It wasn't even the betrayal. It was standing in the pharmacy aisle at 11:43 p.m., reading the label on a bottle of prescription painkillers with shaking hands, while the cashier looked at me like I was about to steal something instead of fall apart. That was my breaking point. And it only got worse from there. The stress wasn't just in my head anymore. It moved in like a tenant. Migraines that felt like nails behind my eyes. Nausea that made coffee taste like motor oil. A buzzing in my chest at night that made me sit up gasping like I'd been drowning in air. I kept telling myself it was just exhaustion. Too many court meetings. Too many documents. Too many lies. But deep down, I knew something was giving out. One morning, I collapsed. Right there in the driveway. Knees hit the gravel like bricks. Hands went numb. I managed to crawl back to the steps and sit there, bent over, gasping like a fish out of water. Jay saw me through the window. He ran outside, barefoot in his pajamas, crying. Dad, are you dying? No, buddy, I rasped. Just tired. The ER doctor said my blood pressure was through the roof. My heart was working overtime. My nervous system was shot to hell from sustained stress. You keep living like this, he said, and your kid won't be asking if you're dying. He'll be asking where to bury you. He handed me a prescription. Something for the panic. Something for the pain. Something to help me sleep more than an hour at a time. I filled it the same day. And that's when Kendra found the bottle. She walked into the kitchen, shook the orange cylinder like a rattle, and smiled like she'd just caught me with a secret lover. Ah, look at you, she said. My big, tough man on baby pills. I didn't answer. She walked closer, waving the bottle in my face. What's next, Travis? Adult diapers? Gonna start carrying a little pillbox to your job like a retired mailman. I clenched my jaw. She leaned in. Tell me, when you take one of these, do you feel like less of a man? Or is that just the side effect? I stood up, real slow. Took the bottle back from her hand. Looked her dead in the eye. You know what's funny? I said. This bottle is the only thing keeping me calm enough to not say what I really think about you. She blinked. For once, her smirk faltered. I twisted the cap open, took a pill, and swallowed it dry. Let me know if I should take two, I said. In case you keep talking. She scoffed, stormed out. And I sat back down, trembling, but upright. The pills helped. Not with the pain, but with the edge. They made me quiet, controlled, focused, like a sniper behind glass. And that's exactly who I needed to be. Because Kendra? She was unraveling. Slowly. Publicly. It started small. She forgot a court date. Claimed the summons never arrived. Layla had proof she signed for it. Then came the call from Jace's school. He'd been left waiting outside in the rain for 45 minutes. When I picked him up, he was soaked to the bone. Kendra had lost track of time at brunch. Then she posted a story from a rooftop bar 5 minutes after I texted her. It wasn't just carelessness. It was cracks. And cracks become canyons real fast. Meanwhile, I documented everything. Every missed handoff. Every bitter text. Every smirk in front of our son. She didn't see it. Didn't realize the man she thought was breaking was actually collecting receipts. One night, I walked into the living room to find her dancing with a glass of wine, phone on speaker. Camila's voice crackled through. I still can't believe the judge didn't throw him out already. I mean, who even takes pills unless they're mentally unstable? Kendra laughed, loud, exaggerated. He looked like a damn ghost in court. You should have seen him fumble that folder. His hands were shaking like a chihuahua in a thunderstorm. I stepped into the room. She turned, startled. Didn't pause the call. Didn't apologize. She just raised her glass like a toast. To Travis, she said to Camila, the saddest man in the suburbs. I didn't flinch. Didn't yell. I walked over, took the remote, and turned off the music. Then I looked at her and said, you're gonna miss the version of me that let you talk like that. Then I walked out. Layla filed the next motion the following Monday. Primary custody transfer. Citing mental abuse, neglect, and malicious emotional behavior in front of the child. We submitted transcripts, photos, footage. The pills? I disclosed them myself. with letters from my doctor, from my therapist, from my employer. I didn't hide my healing. I used it as evidence that I was stable enough to fix myself while she was still trying to perform for an audience. The next hearing was different. Kendra wore all white. Fake tears. Fake humility. Fake motherhood. Jace wasn't there. But the judge was. And so was everything she thought would stay hidden. After the hearing, she cornered me in the hallway. "You really want to do this, Travis? You want to drag me through the mud?" "No," I said. "I want peace." She scoffed. "But if I have to go through fire to get it," I leaned in. "You're going to burn too." She didn't have a comeback. That night, I sat in Jace's room. He was asleep, arm wrapped around a stuffed dinosaur he still refused to give up. I watched him breathe. The first thing they ask in the ER is, did he get into any medicine? The second is, do you think someone gave it to him on purpose? And in that moment, standing in a cold hospital room while my son convulsed behind a curtain, I knew the answer to both. I just couldn't say it out loud yet. Because the truth? It wasn't supposed to be him. It was supposed to be me. Let me back up. It started like a normal morning. Kendra walked into the kitchen around 7:30 with a cardboard box of donuts from Sweet Lou's, the place across town we used to go before Jace was born, back when we still liked each other. "I brought breakfast," she said, setting the box down like it was a peace offering. She was dressed for court again. Ivory blouse, pencil skirt, hair so perfect it looked fake. The scent of designer perfume hit before the sugar did. "Didn't think you baked anymore," I said without looking up. She gave a tight smile. "Oh, I don't. But I thought you could use something sweet, considering how bitter you've been lately." Jace ran into the kitchen 2 minutes later in his Spider-Man socks, still half asleep. He spotted the donuts, cheered, and reached into the box before I could stop him. "Kendra," I said, "he's got school. He doesn't need all that sugar first thing." "Oh, relax, Travis," she said, sipping her coffee. "One won't kill him." Those exact words. "One won't kill him." He chose a chocolate glazed, took a big bite, smiled. I remember thinking he looked like his mom when he smiled, before I realized how dangerous that resemblance was. 15 minutes later, his smile was gone. He started swaying, clutching his stomach, face pale. "Dad," he whispered, "I feel weird." He vomited in the sink, then collapsed. The ambulance arrived faster than I could process what was happening. They loaded him up, hooked him to wires. Oxygen. Kendra stood frozen on the porch, one hand over her mouth, mascara already starting to run. I was too numb to cry, too focused to panic. I rode in the back of the ambulance, gripping his hand like it was the only thing keeping me tethered to earth. At the hospital, they pumped his stomach, ran blood panels, asked questions. I answered them all. No, he's not allergic to chocolate. No, he didn't take any pills from the house. No, he doesn't have a history of fainting. Then the nurse said it. There's trace amounts of hydroxyzine in his blood. It's a sedative. Prescription only. I blinked. What is that even used for? Anti-anxiety. Sleep disorders. But this dose? Way too much for a kid. This could have stopped his heart. She gave me a look. "I'm sorry, Mr. Monroe, but this was given intentionally." I sat down hard. The nurse left, and I finally said it out loud. She was trying to poison me. The box of donuts. It wasn't sealed. The chocolate ones were darker than usual. She made sure to place it in front of my coffee mug. She never expected Jace to get to them first. And now he was the one lying in a hospital bed because of it. Because of her. When Kendra arrived at the hospital, I was waiting. In the hallway. I didn't speak. I just held up the Ziploc bag the nurse gave me, with the half-eaten donut inside, labeled and tagged. "You really hate me that much?" I asked. Her eyes widened. But not with guilt. With strategy. She glanced around the hallway like she was checking for cameras. Then she leaned in and whispered, "You can't prove anything." I should have yelled. Should have lost it. But I didn't. I just stepped back, pulled out my phone, and hit play. Her voice, recorded earlier that morning when she dropped the box on the table. "One won't kill him." Later, the detective showed up. A tall woman in a gray blazer. Quiet voice. Sharp eyes. She interviewed me. Then Kendra. Separately. They took the donut box. The rest of the donuts. The coffee she poured for me, but I never touched. Jace recovered. Slowly. Thank God. The sedative knocked him out for 17 hours, but the doctors said there'd be no permanent damage. Kendra cried in front of the nurses. Played the role of the frantic mom. Even asked if I wanted to pray together. I told her if there was a God in that room, he already knew the truth. Layla was livid. "This isn't a custody issue anymore," she said. "This is a criminal case. Attempted poisoning." "She'll lie," I said. She can lie, Layla replied, but science won't. Over the next 2 weeks, everything escalated. DCF came by, asked questions, looked around the house, took photos of Jace's room, the kitchen, the medicine cabinet. Kendra called it harassment. I called it a long time coming. Zayden showed up again, this time at a hearing. He looked thinner, paler, like he hadn't slept since he left our house in an ambulance. When he took the stand, I expected him to cover for her. But he didn't. He said, under oath. I thought it was a game. I didn't know she'd go that far. I told her I was done when she joked about slipping stuff into his coffee. The courtroom went still. Even Kendra froze. After the hearing, he passed me in the hallway. Didn't stop. Didn't smile. Just muttered, I didn't sign up for that. And I believed him. Because monsters don't always show up with fangs. Sometimes, they arrive in lipstick and high heels and drag other people down with them. That night, I sat beside Jace's bed, watching him sleep. He looked so small, so innocent. And I whispered, I'll never let her touch you again. And I meant it. Because now, it wasn't just about saving myself. It was about protecting my son from the person who gave him life, and then tried to end mine. By the time the news broke, she couldn't control the story anymore. The official report read, child ingested foreign substance from unsealed food item. Investigation ongoing. But in our neighborhood, it was already gospel. She tried to poison her husband. I didn't tell them. I didn't have to. People talk. Word spreads. And truth doesn't need permission to walk through a cul-de-sac. It wasn't just the neighbors whispering anymore. Jace's school called a meeting. The principal, a counselor, me. They asked if he was safe. I said, with me? Always. They asked if his mother would be attending events. I said, not for a long time. They didn't press. Just nodded. And under the table, the counselor slipped me a card. Support group for divorced fathers. I tucked it in my wallet. Didn't throw it away. But didn't call yet either. The next time I saw Kendra, she looked different. Not just tired. Cornered. The same woman who once floated through courtrooms like a perfume and now had bags under her eyes and a twitch in her cheek she couldn't hide with makeup. She didn't talk about the poisoning. She didn't mention the hearing. She just stared at me from across the room and said, you made me look like a monster. I wanted to laugh. But I didn't. I just said, monsters usually reveal themselves. You just had better lighting. She started calling again after that. Not to apologize. To bargain. I'll leave you the house if you drop the charges. I'll sign over full custody if you let me keep the LLC. Then, I'll say you forged the medical documents. Don't push me. I stopped answering. Let her talk to the voicemail. Let her fury sit alone in the dark. But it wasn't her I should have been worried about. It was Camila. She showed up 3 nights later. I was on the porch, sipping tea, not beer, because my body couldn't handle alcohol anymore. The porch light caught her just as she stepped out of the dark. Heels. Tight jeans. Black leather jacket. She looked like a threat and a warning in one breath. You gonna invite me in? She said. No. Fair. She stood at the bottom of the steps, crossed her arms. She's not okay, Camila said. You broke her. She tried to poison me. She snapped, Travis. You cornered her. I stared at her. She poisoned a donut. That's not snapping. That's premeditated. She looked away. She didn't mean for Jace to get it. She meant for me to. Camila was quiet for a beat. Then her voice dropped. You think you're the only one who lost something? I lost my best friend. She won't talk to me. She won't answer. She's locked in her condo shaking like a bomb waiting to go off. I didn't do that, I said. She did. Then Camila stepped forward. Fast. Too fast. And before I could react, she shoved me. Hard. I stumbled back against the porch column. She raised her hand like she might go again. But then, a voice shouted from the driveway. Hey, it was Mr. Hernandez, my neighbor. Early 70s. Vietnam vet. Still wore his old army boots to mow the lawn. He had his phone up. I'm calling the police, he yelled. Camila turned, furious. You don't even know what he's done. I know you just put hands on a man outside his own home, he said. I know what that looks like. And I don't play sides when kids are involved. She hesitated, then spit on the gravel. You'll get yours, she hissed. Then stormed off into the dark. The cops came anyway. Took a statement. Mr. Hernandez backed me up. Security cam caught the whole thing. They left me with a card and an offer to press charges. I declined. For now. But the file exists. So if she tries again, it's already started. The next morning, Kendra showed up at the hospital. Not for Jace. For herself. She checked into the ER, claiming anxiety. Chest tightness. Fear of retaliation. They ran tests. Kept her overnight. But no one visited. Not even Camila. Not this time. The next day, the detective called. They found traces of hydroxyzine residue in the donut box. Fingerprints matched Kendra's. And text messages, recovered from her second phone, showed her searching for how much sedative causes drowsiness in adults. She was done. Not in court yet, but close. And she knew it. Layla prepped our next motion. Permanent custody, supervised visitation, and an order of protection. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "You're winning, Travis. But this isn't over. She's got nothing left to lose." That night, I found something in the mailbox. No return address. Inside was a card. A cheap, glittery Hallmark thing. No signature. Just one line. "You're not a hero. You're just a man who survived." There was no blood. No threats. Just words. But somehow, it rattled me more than the slap ever did. I put the card in a drawer. Locked it. Then went upstairs, sat on Jace's bed, and listened to him breathe. This kid didn't care about the legal terms. He didn't understand custody or evidence or trauma. He just wanted breakfast in the morning and to know I'd still be there at night. That was my job now, to be the man who stayed. The next hearing was in 6 days. I knew she'd show up swinging. Not fists, but lies. Gaslight. Deflect. Cry. The Kendra special. But I had something she didn't. Not just facts. Witnesses. Neighbors. Jace's teachers. Even Zayden. People who saw the mask slip. And this time, the courtroom would too. Camila hasn't come back. But sometimes, I see her parked down the block. Watching. Maybe waiting. I don't care. Because now, my eyes are open. And I know something I didn't know before. You can survive a slap. You can survive betrayal. Even poison. But the one thing that always leaves a scar is letting the wrong person back in. And I'm done bleeding for people who smile when I do.